Hey mommies, today I'm at the Emotional Wellness Center with Ishita Pateria.
Hi guys!
A psychotherapist and a counseling psychologist. So today we're going to talk about some issues that most parents are afraid to address, and Ishita is going to help us answer the questions. Okay, so in your experience, what do you say is the prime issue children face today?
I think today the main issue that children are facing is lack of confidence, lack of self-confidence. I think it's something that they face in all ages, and if recognized in the early ages, it's something that we can then prevent from affecting them later on. I think the main thing that kids today in schools face is about fitting in, something that we call herd mentality. They like to do what everybody is doing. They try to copy the fads, try to copy whatever the in thing is.
Yeah.
And at any point, if they feel they don't fit in, then it affects their confidence largely.
Because they want to be part of the whole.
Yeah. And it's only normal that not every kid is going to like every activity, every fad. And I think as parents, at that time when you recognize that your child is struggling with that, it's very important to point out their strengths rather than saying how you're not
their
doing
weaknesses.
their weaknesses, right? It's like if everybody plays a certain sport around you, and if your child is not good at that sport, rather than unnecessarily just encouraging that, see what else they're good at, see what else they like. There are enough opportunities, luckily today, that we have. So I think it's important to do that. I think another thing to keep in mind is generally in schools, teachers, when they're dealing with kids, every time a child does something wrong, they're told about. But every time they do something well, they're not appreciated.
Yeah.
As a result, the mind, which grows the most from the ages of 0 to 8, learns to deal with life like that. They learn to be critical themselves, so that every time they do something well, it's not a big deal.
It's not important,
right?
Because no one's ever acknowledged it.
Yeah, but every time you do something not well or you do badly, it's like, oh my god, what did I just do? And if the same technique or tool is used even by parents, then overall they've been raised in a very, very critical environment. And that's something that then affects them as adults also. Because you're
Their
just
personalities.
Because you're never happy with what you do, you never feel you're enough.
Yeah.
As a person, and even, in school, academics, everything.
So basically just tackle the child by always focusing on their strengths.
Yeah, it's about their strengths. You point out the weaknesses, obviously.
Yeah.
You help them come around it, you help them acknowledge it, you help them become aware of it, so that, okay, if I'm not good at math, I'm not. It's not the end of the world. They don't have to be in denial about it, right?
Yeah.
But it's also about positive affirmations. That whole concept of, oh, don't praise the child, they'll, not do anything. Doesn't really work. The more you positively affirm them, the more motivated they'll be. The more then you can work around how they can do better, and thereon.
And okay, these days behavioral issues is a big concern, such as anger, tantrums, kids who are overly sensitive also. So there's the opposite, there's the angry, overly crazy kids, and then there are ones, but why, how? I mean, how do you deal with those behavioral issues?
I think it's first to identify what the issue is. It's also important to identify where that issue is happening. So for example, are they throwing tantrums when they're alone with you? Are they throwing tantrums when there's a crowd? Are they sensitive? Are they shy only with certain people in certain situations? Is it something that's general? It's then important to see first as parents that have there any changes that's happened in our environment, in the house. Are there any from a maid leaving to fights in the family, to maybe a cousin or a guest who was staying with us for a long time and has left, because any small change can become a very large deal
For a child.
One very common thing that I hear, even adults say when they talk about their childhood, was that if their parents were working a lot, or if they didn't have them at home much, they had toys as their go-to, as something that they held on to for their support. And then if anybody played around with their toys, it was a no-go. It was their, because that's their security, right? So it's these small things that you have to pay attention to about what's exactly happening in the house. Find out what those behaviors are, because then you can deal with it.
So if you're a working mom, for example, you have to figure out, you can work, there's no harm in working, but you need to figure out how to balance your day with your kid as well.
And it's also
that's very important. I think that
that's
for me at least, I feel that is one of the most important things.
And it's about when you're at home, then you give them that time. There's there is no book that says that you need to give all 12 hours to your child. There's no need to do that. But whatever time you are with them, it's important that you're giving your full attention to them. It's actually unhealthy to give them too much attention. Right? Because that comes with its own set of issues.
And overly clingy.
And actually a working parent is a great example for children, because then they understand that life has various,
responsibilities
and what comes with that, and they're also just exposed to various styles of life, not just one. So I think in terms of behavior, it's first important to understand what that is, if there are any changes in the school or at home, and then also kind of once that's picked on, to then first start explaining to them about when that anger is, not encourage it, not tell them off about it, but actually say when the child's being really angry, let them vent it out. If they're being, crying a lot, let them cry it out.
Yeah.
Once that extra energy is out of them, then you'd actually be able to identify what's happening.
And have a conversation.
As parents, most of the time someone's crying, we just hug them out. Sometimes it's important to actually let them out, let them cry it out, to be like, okay, what's happening? You can hold them, but you don't need to make them stop. If they're angry, you can make them exercise, you can make them find a way that allows them to release that energy, to then be able to, because even then they'll be able to see. But if children are too young, they obviously won't have the emotional maturity to be able to point out what that is. In that age group, I think art therapy and play therapy works really well, because it gives them avenues to address what they're feeling without necessarily speaking it out.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
And also, I think one thing that parents have to keep in mind is the shows that children are watching, the games that they're playing.
Oh God, nowadays social media
because that does have a huge impact on, what they feel. A lot of aggression, a lot of things come from, because even in cartoons, people are beating up each other, and so it's okay to do that, So you learn that that's something that's acceptable, that's something that's, it's a norm, so you can do that. And lastly, most behaviors that children do are copied. So you need to identify that in your home, say you and your husband are not fighting in front of the child, or you don't talk about such things, because then the child thinks it's alright. If there's any physical abuse, then the child will think it's alright.
There's also one where if you speak to our help, there's so many people who speak so rudely to their help, the kids start speaking rudely to everyone around them. So that's very important. Okay, so tell me about anxiety. It's become such a big issue around us, with not only with kids but with adults as well. So how do you tackle anxiety?
I think anxiety is one of the most common and severe problems that we're facing today. It's seen that very soon it's going to be 1 in every 3 individuals, which is massive. Anxiety, if I were to tell you in plain basic words, it's fearing for the future, fearing about something that's going to happen in the future that we have no control over. But we start overthinking about it, we start thinking what if, and then we get really anxious, which ends up in us having sweaty palms, our heart racing really fast. People can get a panic attack. A lot of people today suffering from gastro problems like acidity and stuff like that. It's actually because of anxiety. Sure, the chili and the food add to it, but it's also that women losing hair, men losing hair. It's all because we're living in such stressful environments, and rather than focusing on the present, what we have today, what we can do today, we're always thinking about what next. Even if you think about someone today, because of Google, because of other avenues, actually anxiety is increasing, because even something like with health, any problem that we hear anybody, we Google it up and we're like, oh my God, we're going to get this illness, or we're going to get something, not recognizing what do we have, what are we suffering from, what can we do about it today. It's most important if something's happening, say even today with the environment, with climate change happening, what can you do about it today? Rather than next month when that happens, we'll do, no, what are you doing about it today? And once you do that, then you shut that chapter and next. Because anxiety at the end of the day is a learned behavior. The more we stress about something, the more we recognize we don't have control over it, and the more we become anxious. But if we start actually focusing on our actions, then we're not giving as much space for the anxiety.
Thank you, Ishita. Okay, moms, so if you guys have any more questions, I'm going to put up Ishita's handle, and you have mine as well, and just DM us if you need any more information. Thank you for listening, and I hope this really helped you.
Thank you.
Thank you.